Colorado fans are starting the hashtag We Want Juju, but does Juju want Colorado? I think they may have a case.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Bohr, but today's episode is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for making me your first listen of the day. Let's dive into it. Colorado obviously has one of the best quarterbacks in the country right now, Shedeur Sanders. He's a projected top pick, but there's a problem with this. When he leaves for the NFL next season, after the 2024 season, who's going to step in and fill those diamond turf shoes that Coach Prime has brought back from Nike? Who's going to step in and fill those for Shedeur? Obviously, he is a gunslinger. He's got a huge arm. He's accurate. He's got some swagger. He's got some charisma. He's got the watch celebration. He's got it all. And those are some big shoes to fill. And then you look at their roster right now, and it's like they have Ryan Staub, Walter Taylor, and Destin Wade. Which one of those guys is going to win the battle and sort of emerge as his replacement? Is the quarterback of the future for Colorado on the roster right now? I don't think so. I think the quarterback of the future for Colorado could be one Mr. Julian Lewis. Now, they have a lot of work to do for Julian Lewis. He's a 5-star quarterback with just about every program in the country coming after him, but he's already narrowed down his official visits. He's already committed to USC, but until pen is put to paper, you cannot count out Coach Prime. We've learned that with countless players, Travis Hunter, Cormani McClain, sometimes even when pen is put to paper. Even a guy like Dylan Edwards, who flipped from Notre Dame after flipping from his in-state Kansas State. He flipped to Colorado for his freshman year, obviously transferred. But Cormani McClain, he was about to put pen to paper, went to Colorado. So until it is said and done, you cannot count out the Colorado Buffaloes. And things just got a bit more interesting for Colorado. Julian Lewis announced his official visit schedule, and as you can imagine, USC got one of them, June 7th. But it is it is an eclectic list. It is an interesting list, maybe even weird. We could go with weird. He starts it off May 31st, and this is, I kid you not, he's going to Indiana to visit with Tino Sunseri and the new head coach over there in Indiana. If you guys aren't familiar with Tino, he recruited or had been recruiting Julian dating back to his time at Florida State. Obviously, the Sunseri family is quite established in football, but also he has that connection with Julian. So they are making a push. Then his next visit is to USC on June 7th. So obviously the Trojans, I think they're very confident, and I feel like there's a lot of noise around USC still being the front runner. But I'm a little skeptical that USC is still in a good position, considering he's scheduling a lot of visits and kind of playing the game. Maybe he wants some more NIL money, or maybe he's just weighing all of his options, as everyone should do. Then the following weekend, he's heading back down south, and he is going to Auburn, where he is being primarily recruited by Kent Austin, which, I mean, it's not uncommon for a quarterback's coach to recruit a quarterback, but he's also being primarily recruited by, or the secondary recruiter, Hugh Freeze, which means Auburn is going all in. Auburn, when a head coach is getting involved heavily, that's when you know they want someone. So that's obviously a big sign for Auburn. And then his final visit that he scheduled, which he announced yesterday, June 21st, to Boulder, Colorado. And it is one that is going to be really interesting because Colorado needs a quarterback of the future for multiple reasons. One, Shedeur Sanders is gone to the NFL after this year. He's going to be a top pick. Who's going to carry the torch? Who's he going to pass the torch to after this season, where he likely leads into a bowl game, or at best has him contending for a Big 12 title? Who's going to carry that torch and kind of set Colorado up to succeed for years to come? Now, it's a lot to expect for a freshman quarterback to kind of step in and be successful right away, but Coach Prime has shown that if he wants a recruit badly, like a freshman recruit, and he wants them to play right away, they will play right away. And so if Julian Lewis is in a position where Coach Prime wants him and he says, hey, you're going to be our starting quarterback next year, Julian Lewis will probably come into spring camp, get all the first team reps, and get every rep imaginable, so that way he is ready when the season rolls around. Now, Colorado also needs Julian Lewis, I think, in the recruiting ranks at least, to show that Coach Prime is bought in. There's a lot of rumors, there's a lot of murmurs, and even though he says he wants to be there for 10 years, until we see this 2024-25 season end, people are going to be speculating that Deion Sanders is going to leave for the media or just leave to be a dad of his kids, in the sense that he just wants to watch them play professionally. His daughter obviously transferred from Colorado, so she's no longer there. His two sons, Shiloh and Shador, are both headed to the NFL. So what is his plans for life after his kids? And obviously his oldest son Deion is still his oldest son Deion is still in Boulder creating content, but what what do we make of the Coach Prime era after his kids leave? And I think that's still the biggest question. So if he goes all in and is putting in maximum effort to get Julian Lewis to come to Boulder, Colorado, and to be a Buff, I think this kind of proves to Julian and to all the recruits out there that Coach Prime is bought in on Boulder and bought in on this Buffaloes program. And it's just a matter of time before he kind of gets some steam going on the recruiting trail. And having a 5-star quarterback will certainly attract a lot of other recruits who may be willing to take a risk and transfer to Colorado to sort of see how things work out while playing for Coach Prime. Now, obviously, to land Julian Lewis, what do they need to do? They need to win games. They need to kind of show that you could get that NIL bag here, which, I mean, obviously Shador, as we learned via some pocket watching people, has 6 cars and an apartment. So money's available out here in Boulder, or opportunities available out there in Boulder. So they need wins, NIL, and then I think he needs to sort of establish the offense. Obviously, Shador is going to play well. He's a great quarterback. He's had it for this is his 4th or 5th different coordinator now. He is going to ball out, but they need to show some sort of continuity, some sort of stability at the offensive coordinator role. So Pat Shurmur needs to sort of live up to his end of the bargain, and Colorado just needs a little bit of luck. You know, it never hurts to have a little bit of luck in the recruiting world. Julian Lewis is clearly valuing this sort of opportunity to kind of take a chance on smaller programs like Indiana or Colorado, because USC and these like Auburn, not a clear path to the field. USC, not a clear path to the field. They have Jaden Maiava, the UNLV quarterback transfer, waiting in the wings after Miller Moss leaves. So Colorado has the clearest path to the field. You could play for Coach Prime. You could get a bunch of NIL deals, and Colorado is currently working on their NIL collective anyway. So Colorado could really use a big swing and a connection here. We'll just have to wait and see if it actually works out. When we come back from the break, I'm going to be telling you about the biggest and toughest stretch that I think Colorado has on their schedule that could really impact the rest of their season. So we're going to dive into that when we come back. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Also, you guys need to check this out because Locked On is doing this really cool thing, because obviously there's a lot of drama out there on the sports shows. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or for free on the Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Let's talk about it. Colorado's schedule, really interesting. I think it's really interesting, at least, and it's something that you look at it from last year's schedule, and I would say it's not as difficult, but it's still pretty difficult. The Pac-12, and let me explain. The Pac-12 this past season was elite. I honestly think if I was new to college football this past year and was watching college football for the first time, and like I'm a new fan and I have no prior knowledge of college football, I'd be like, this Pac-12 conference, it's really something. This must be the best conference in college football, right? Not knowing that the SEC has been just running the sport. Now, obviously, that's not the case, and the Pac-12 is now the Pac-2, and it's regionalism is dead in college football, so there's that. But Colorado goes to the Big 12 conference, and in the Big 12 conference, I would say, in a way, it's deeper in the sense that you look at how many teams there are, and I would say almost all of them probably could make a bowl game next season. Like realistically, I think Cincinnati was the worst team in the Big 12 last year, and they made some improvements to the roster where it's like if they get if things go their way, maybe they're back in the mix in the Big 12, like or in the mix in the Big 12. I guess they've never been in the mix because they've obviously were new to the conference. But what I'm saying, all of this to say is you look at what they brought in the portal, and you look at how all these teams improved and just what they did last year. There's a good chance that all of these teams at the very minimum, like the bottom tier of the Big 12, there's a chance that maybe one or two teams don't make a bowl game. So it's going to be a little bit tougher. I would say there's going to be more coin flip games, whereas like Colorado, when they played Oregon and USC, in hindsight, I mean, the USC team collapsed and Colorado could have won that game. But in hindsight, games like that were tough. It was going into the game, people were like, USC should slaughter Colorado. Going into the game, Oregon should slaughter Colorado. You look at Colorado's schedule in the Big 12, the only games where I could see like, oh, that may not be as close as Colorado would like is Kansas State and Utah. Everyone else very much in the mix. It's very much a coin toss game. So I wanted to kind of talk about it's a 4-game stretch really, and I think it could honestly define Colorado's season. And obviously any 4-game stretch can define Colorado's season. But when you look at what Colorado struggled with last year and what these teams like to do, it is going to be interesting to see how they can adapt to what they struggled with last year. Because obviously, Colorado, it's a completely different team. So I don't want to keep comparing it. But you have to look at what these other teams like to do. And when these other teams are able to do it against anyone, it doesn't matter how much you improved, unless you're going to be the best defense or offense in the country. People are still going to get you. People are going to get theirs. So let's talk about this 4-week stretch. And I actually think it's the final 4-week stretch for Colorado. So from November 9th to the 29th, it's 4 weeks. They have at Texas Tech, who I think people are overlooking. I think they could be a top 25 team. I think they could be sort of a dark horse contender for the Big 12. They have number 10 Utah, which these are preseason or postseason ranks or whatever. Number 10 Utah coming to town. At Kansas, number 22 Kansas, and then they welcome number 17 Oklahoma State to town. Let's look at where all these teams ranked in rush offense, because obviously there's some sort of correlation to what Colorado struggled with. Texas Tech is the only team that obviously they've been known to be sort of the air raid kind of offense. Utah, 33 in rush offense, which is not to be taken lightly because they're always physical. Kansas, number 8 in rush offense. And then Oklahoma State, which we guys all know they had the best running back in the country. They did not rank in the top 50, but they did have Ollie Gordon, who was the best running back in the country. So it's like, okay, they're going to be trying to run the ball down Colorado's throats, right? Yes. Also, these teams, for the most part, I'll have somewhat experienced quarterbacks. Obviously, Utah has Cam Rising. Kansas, if he's healthy, has Jalen Daniels. If you look at Texas Tech, they have Baron Morton, who played a lot of football this past season for the Red Raiders, and he's improving. And will he sort of take that next step? And then Oklahoma State had Alan Bowman, who started his career at Texas Tech like 7 years ago, it seems like, and then went to Michigan for a couple years as a glorified graduate assistant. And now he's back at Oklahoma State. He led them to a Big 12 championship appearance last year. So they all also, it's worth noting that these teams are all going to be physical on defense. And I'm going to tell you guys their total defense rank as well, because Colorado, which, I mean, this isn't a hot take, Colorado and other teams last year struggled against top tier defenses. Texas Tech didn't have a top tier defense. So Texas Tech may be the easiest game on this little stretch here, but it's on the road. Obviously, you guys know, or you should know, or will know that Lubbock is a tough place to play at night. Utah was number 13 in total defense, and that's pretty darn good. Kansas, not a top 50 defense, but they made some plays when they had to, and every winning team does. And then Oklahoma State, they also had a very stout defense. And it's one of those things where if Colorado can't stop the run and they can't protect Shador Sanders, which I do think they'll be better at doing both of those things, that's gonna be a tough stretch. And honestly, I don't know how their first 8 games are gonna go, but it wouldn't surprise me if Colorado's sitting, say they're, I don't know, 4-4, and they have to win 2 out of the last 4 games. That's going to be a tough. I don't look at the schedule and be like, you know what, Texas Tech automatic win, Kansas automatic win. That those last 4 weeks could be the difference between them making a bowl game, or if everything goes right for Colorado, which it very well could, that could be the difference between them contending for a Big 12 title when December rolls around. So those final 4 games are going to be massive for Colorado. You guys comment below, which game are you most excited about, or do you think will have the biggest impact on Colorado's schedule? Comment below. Let me know what you think so that way we could compare, we could contrast, and we could debate in the comment section. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Jordan Seaton and what I expect from the 5-star freshman this upcoming season. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to like, subscribe, follow. We are trying to get to 6,000 subs by the start of football season. Lofty goal, I know, but we are almost a quarter of the way there. We're at 5,200 and something subs, and we got a lot of great content coming up. We're going to have some really cool guests coming up this offseason. You guys won't want to miss it. We're going to do some spring previews. We're going to do some crossover shows with other Big 12 programs, so that way we could get to know our Big 12 foes. But first, before we get to all that, we got to talk about Jordan Seaton. What does he bring to the table for Colorado? What are my expectations? And what is a good season for Jordan Seaton? And what is a bad season for Jordan Seaton? Now, if you guys were living under a rock and don't really know who Jordan Seaton is, he was the number 13 player in the entire country in this past 2024 class. Number 1 offensive tackle. Number 4 players in the state of Florida. The state of Florida loaded every year. And so what does he mean to Colorado? Well, for one, he is very much a recruit that Colorado should hang their hats on, wave the flag about, be like, hey, look at this. We could get quality top-tier offensive linemen. Most people were saying Coach Prime only gets defensive backs because he's Deion Sanders, was an NFL corner, and that's the only reason that he's getting these 5-star guys, which, I mean, it probably doesn't hurt that he's a 5-star or he's an NFL Hall of Famer at corner. But he goes out, gets the top offensive lineman in the country, pries him out of his home state because he's from Maryland. Maryland came knocking late. He prized him out of Florida, Florida State, Miami, all those schools. Florida were interested. Ohio State was interested. Everyone was interested, and Colorado won out. So what is a good season for Jordan Seaton? Well, for one, I think he starts because they bring in all these transfers. And I think a good season starts with Jordan Seaton at left tackle or right tackle. Doesn't really matter. I think having him at left tackle will kind of show your confidence in him. But has him at left tackle, have him start, and have him be productive. Now, I don't think it's fair to expect that he's going to be just an absolute monster at left tackle right away. There's going to be some growing pains, but I do think that there's been signs and there's been previous players who have played well at left tackle and kind of showcase their ability to thrive as a youngster on the offensive line. You look at Kelvin Banks from Texas. He's going to be a first-round pick next year. You look at Spencer Fano from Utah. He came in, started right away for a very solid offensive line. Same thing with Kelvin Banks, like I mentioned, at Texas. So Jordan Seaton has the blueprint. He just needs to sort of develop this offseason. He's going to go up against some really experienced pass rushers in Samuel O. From Pitt, BJ Green from Arizona State, Dalen Hayes from Pitt as well. Like, they have a ton of guys, Quincy Wiggins, who are going to come in, push him every day to be the best version of himself and sort of be that guy for Colorado. And I do think that there's a possibility that he sort of turns some heads and maybe helps Colorado recruit even more, because when Shador, Shiloh, and Travis leave, I look at this team and I'm like, who's the face? Now, I don't think Jordan Seaton's going to be the face of the program in the sense that, like, people are going to be lining up to play EA Sports' college football video game to play with Jordan Seaton. But I do think recruits take notice. I do think he's going to help out with IMG recruiting. I do think he's going to get Colorado into the DMV if they want to. So if he plays well, which I think a good season for him is just showing that he could be a consistent contributor, a consistent starter for the Buffs and protect Shedeur Sanders. I think he helps out recruiting. I think he helps out in NIL for Colorado. And I think he helps Colorado have a new identity, build through the trenches, not through the skill positions, because physicality is all that matters in football. And if you're not physical enough, you won't win games. So I think it's a big year for Colorado's Jordan Seaton. He was named one of the 10 best or most intriguing freshmen by 24/7 Sports. I'm very intrigued to see how his freshman season turns out. You guys comment below. How many pancakes does Jordan Seaton have? How many sacks does he allow in his first season? Comment below. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, all that jazz, and I will see you guys tomorrow.